Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to today's session. I'm Jason Gumpert from MSDynamicsWorld.com, and we're here for a session all about empowering growth with Dynamics GP process automation. We have two panelists with us today, Ray Emerzian and Nerissa Perez. It's great to have them both here. I'm going to be handing it off to Ray in just a moment. I want to remind you as we get started, though, that we do encourage your questions and recommend you enter them at any point throughout today's session. I know Ray and Nerissa will be saving some time at the end. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand things off to Ray to get us started.
Thank you, Jason. And can you hear me okay?
I can, yep.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for joining us today for our presentation. And we appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to listen to a little bit about how you can improve and empower your growth utilizing process automation with Dynamics GP and DocStar. Quick overview of our agenda for today. We'll be talking a little bit about DocStar, who we are. We'll be talking with Nerissa Perez, we'll introduce momentarily, and then we'll be going over a brief product overview and allowing you to basically ask your questions and answer those towards the end of the session. So real quickly, DocStar was founded in 1996 as an enterprise content management solution provider and process automation software developer. And what that means is we've been providing automation solutions and business process workflow solutions for quite some time now, more than 20 years, obviously. And we've served well over 2,000 organizations, representing over 100,000 users of our product worldwide today. And our latest version of our platform can be deployed either on premises or via the cloud. It can either be a hosted solution that we provide, or you can actually choose to host it in your own hosting environment. And DocStar is, at this point, well known for being a transformation and automation process company. And we've been providing solutions, as mentioned, for quite some time to over 2,000 organizations. But most notably, our solutions are flexible and able to provide most organizations with the agility that they need to empower growth through multiple process automation solutions. So you may start with an initial solution, but you may then move that into other areas of your business or extensions within the same area of your business in order to reap more benefit from the solution. So for example, you may start in your accounting department and drive process automation there, and then move into your HR team's department and drive process automation for the HR team. Our platform is innovative in that it's easy to implement, easy to maintain over time, and it's built to empower you as the user to make use of the system as you want to make use of it over time without needing costly or sometimes unavailable professional services or development skills that maybe your organization doesn't possess, or that if you have to reach out to our organization for those services, obviously there would be cost involved. So we designed the platform with the empowerment strategy that allows you to build workflows for yourself and maintain those workflows over time, because as we all know, needs change over time. And you will need to maintain and make modifications to your own process workflows, and that's where we've designed the solution to empower you, the user. With our deep industry knowledge, we also have built in solution benefits and features that allow you to reap the solution benefits that your organization needs. So while you may need AP process automation today, tomorrow you may need HR, you may need in the future marketing or sales operations, and in our pursuit of providing tools and a platform that's easy to use and extend across all these areas, we've worked with many organizations over time to build out these feature sets that apply to multiple areas of your organization. Specifically with process automation technology, we've worked with many accounts payable departments to really bring about a really powerful, robust AP automation solution that allows you to make use of that right out of the gate and then extend as needed down the line. So as I mentioned a moment ago, we are introducing Nerissa Perez from Midtown Athletic Clubs. She's the controller with Midtown Athletic Clubs. And we'd like to invite her to basically have a short discussion with us to talk about some of the things that she's experienced with the DocStar solution and some of the benefits she's seen in deploying the solution, most notably in a large environment across multiple locations. So, how are you today, Nerissa?
I'm terrific. How about you guys?
We're good, thank you. So Nerissa, we have a quote on the screen, but as we're looking at your quote on screen, we kind of wanted to ask you a few questions that maybe you can elaborate on for the audience on the call today to help get a customer's perspective. So, as many people on the call are probably thinking that don't already have an AP automation solution, what made you look for an AP automation solution, and what pain points drove that search? And maybe some of the people on the call can relate to some of the pain points that you had that had you start looking for a solution.
Sure, absolutely. So we migrated onto Great Plains back at the beginning of 2014. And previous to migrating onto Great Plains, we were processing our accounts payable on a very decentralized basis. And so what I mean by that is in our old accounting software, we had our different clubs, our different sites set up as individual databases, a different set of books, that kind of thing. And we had, at the time, maybe about 30, 35 different entities set up in our old accounting software. So when we migrated onto Great Plains, we set up our system so that we would be able to process all of our transactions on a very intercompany basis and a very centralized basis. So, for example, instead of previously paying the same vendor 10 different separate AP checks for 10 separate different clubs, in Great Plains we were able to set it up where we would pay that one vendor via one AP check for 10 different clubs. And so it was saving on paper, it was saving on bank fees with that respect, and certainly saving time from a processing perspective. However, that said, when we went to a centralized process, it was very, very challenging to even locate any of our invoices, especially those that were on a shared basis, because if we share the same major vendors, and so it would always be something where at the end of the month all of the staff accountants would be searching and looking for that exact same high dollar item vendor invoice for them to look for to journalize their month ends, that kind of thing. So just finding and locating and searching and rescuing these invoices was very much of a challenge for us. And at that point, we had decided, enough is enough. We really need to go on to a more automated solution for our AP process. And when we went on to Great Plains, we always kind of knew in the back of our minds that AP automation was something that we had wanted to do. We were very paper full at the time, and we were certainly using filing cabinets and manila folders as our way of filing our AP at the time, but we knew that AP automation was something that we wanted to tackle down the road. So it was just a matter of getting there. But once we actually saw how things were working in practice as far as our centralization of the AP process, we said we got to just do this quickly and now.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable, and obviously those are some of the reasons why we have an AP automation solution to help in those scenarios. So when you're out there searching for a solution, obviously there's a lot of choices out there. And when you're looking for AP automation, in fact, not only there are a number of vendors out there, but there's also a number of perspectives as to what type of platform you need. in order to service the need for AP automation, meaning you can come from a payments perspective, you can come from an ECM or enterprise content management perspective, and you can even come from an extensibility within GP perspective. But what are some of the top reasons you chose DocStar for your organization, Nerissa?
Sure. We did quite a bit of shopping, actually, when we were looking at different AP solutions. We just wanted to make the right choice. It was not something that we wanted to do twice, and so we wanted to make sure that we had spoken with all of the vendors that we, felt we knew of, as well as we also spoke with some smaller local vendors as well, just to see what would be the right fit for us. And so one of the things that I did a couple years back was I went to GPUG, the GP Summit, and spoke with, like I said, the top vendors that were there and a couple of smaller ones too. And at the end of the day, DocStar just felt like the right choice and felt like the right fit. We knew and we know as of today, and I'm sure that everyone has this bias about their own organization, but we knew how complex we were. We have a lot of intercompany transactions. We transact both purchase orders and non-purchase order invoices. We have transactions in the U.S. primarily, but we also have them in Canada. We have a club located in Montreal. With that, we have USD, U.S. dollar transactions. We have Canadian dollar transactions. With the Canadian piece, we have provincial tax, local tax, and then we have all kinds of use tax rules, even City of Chicago specific rules in, for some of our clubs. So we had all kinds of complexity, and whenever we had spoken with DocStar as far as, we have this scenario, we have that scenario, they just spoke very confidently and were able to provide an answer, as well as, they said, we've done that before. We have this XYZ client that has actually done that. And then the other thing that I did too was go through the exercise of speaking with references for each of these vendors. And I actually got pretty deep with another vendor, and at the end of the day, they weren't able to answer some of our questions resolving purchase orders and some big ticket items that were unfortunately a deal breaker for them. But fortunately, it went well with DocStar, because DocStar was the one that was able to answer a majority, if not all of our primary concerns. And so, we felt very comfortable with that piece, and it was there was very much that confidence level at the very beginning and throughout the entire process.
Thank you, Nerissa. We appreciate those comments, obviously. Also, when you were looking for your implementation approach, did you embark on a phased approach, or did you look at deploying the entire solution all at once?
Sure, absolutely. So, like I said, our biggest pain point was just, where the heck are all of our invoices? It's so hard to find anything. And we knew that we needed to nip that problem in the bud very quickly. And at the same time, because of how complex we were and all of the different solution scenarios as well as options that DocStar had to offer, we knew that we kind of wanted, the Cadillac, of DocStar setup, but we knew that, we had immediate concerns that we needed to address right away. So we certainly said, a phased approach is what we want to do, just based on what we want to accomplish, as well as what our team has the time for. So our phase one was basically just to get the accounting team using DocStar, getting acclimated with it, as well as being that document repository for us. So we began using DocStar to start filing our invoices away, scanning them in, and then using them with Great Plains on a limited basis there. And then phase two was all of the fun extras. It was the icing on the cake. So it was where we were able to integrate text recognition, so we would be able to scan our invoices in, and instead of us manually hard coding or typing the invoice number, the invoice date, the vendor name, the text recognition software would identify, oh, this is Wilson Sporting Goods, you want to buy, these tennis balls for, $1,000 for this club. It was able to identify those pieces with that text recognition software, as well as being able to allow us to do purchase orders, the Canadian piece, the intercompany piece, that kind of thing. So, phase 2 was a lot of fun, but phase 1 was, again, just to get us acclimated and get our feet wet. But it did take some time because phase 1 is the backbones of your setup as far as Great Plains is concerned, and as well as your organization is concerned. So not to minimize phase 1, but phase 1 was certainly important as well. But phase 2 was certainly a lot more fun.
That's an interesting way to characterize that. And by the way, as you recall, Nerissa, in the early stages of the process, we did discuss the potential benefits of going either way. And oftentimes, especially today, since AP automation is being talked about a lot more these days than even in the past, a lot of people think that they might be behind the curve and that they need to go whole hog right out of the gate. And we usually caution against that just because a phased approach helps for a small portion of the organization, your accounting team, to get acclimated, as you said, very quickly in a controlled environment before trying to roll out to the rest of the organization and creating a lot of change very quickly among a lot of people. So there are definite benefits to taking a phased approach. Not to say that if you choose to go the whole route, that's not an option. It's just obviously managing change within an organization is a key issue that needs to be focused on in any kind of deployment like this.
Absolutely.
You can liken it even to when you first rolled out GP and how that impacted your organization and the change that included for everybody. And sometimes that's a lot for an entire organization to absorb.
Absolutely. And if your guys' organizations is anything like mine, you have a lot of accountants with that professional skepticism, that mindset that, there's no way this is going to work, and, there's no way we're going to be able to get this in on time. And so it's certainly baby steps, just from, a cultural perspective and in order to get them to buy into it as well. So, the other thing, too, is, once you hear about all of the bells and whistles that, DocStar has to offer, you get so excited. And then if you try to tackle it all at once, there's things that you might just allow slip through the cracks. You just can't eat the elephant all at once kind of thing. So I definitely think that the phase approach, I agree with you, Ray, is the way to go.
Thank you, Nerissa. So related to that, and I'm sure that people on the call today may feel some of this as well, we always talk about the benefits. We always talk about the end result in terms of what you can achieve with an AP automation process solution. But a lot of people do have the concern about what that implementation process is like, and really what does it mean, not just from the vendor you're choosing and their abilities, but what does it mean for, and how does it impact that organization that's choosing to go that route. Can you tell us a little bit about your implementation experience and how your organization worked with DocStar and what that felt like for you as an organization?
Sure, absolutely. So at the very beginning, we basically laid out, and this was for both phases, each phase, we laid out everything that we wanted to accomplish, put it down on paper. We went over it, one time, two times, three times, and made sure that what we put down on paper was what we wanted to indeed accomplish. And then from there, it just kind of took off. And we would meet weekly with the DocStar team, with, our team here at Midtown, our, staff accountants, our accounting clerks, our AP clerks that were helping with the setup and the testing of the software. And, DocStar very much kept us accountable because, as I'm sure all of you guys out there listening have, you guys all have normal day-to-day lives and processes and responsibilities and emails that just end up taking up your time. So DocStar was very good about, touching base with us to make sure that we were still in alignment with the different milestones and timeframes that we needed to accomplish on our end in order to keep us, at a progressing level. And to that point too, as the customer, you definitely have to have a team and have to be in that mindset and in that environment that you're ready to commit and you're ready to be invested in the implementation, because no implementation is easy. Like I said, you only want to do it one time, and you want to do it right. So it's important to make sure that you set aside the time in order to go there. But as far as Dockstar was concerned, they were, continuously ready. They were able to answer questions. One of the things I really liked about the Dockstar team as well is that they were able to wear both a developmental hat as well as an accounting hat, because oftentimes you'll work with an implementation team where someone is more IT faceted or someone is more accounting faceted, and they can't understand maybe the vice versa. The accounting person can't understand the back-end IT or, vice versa. But with DocStar, they were very well-rounded with that respect, so I felt very comfortable there. And the other thing, too, that I really liked was that DocStar was very engaging. It wasn't something where they just kept promising the kitchen sink where, yeah, we can set that up for you, Nerissa. Yes, we can make the Canadian dollars show up this way, and we can make the tax work that way. At times they would ask us questions back and say, well, Nerissa, why do you want to set up your intercompany transactions that way? Why is this something that's, that's of importance for your guys' organization? And they would listen to our answer, and they would either say, okay, fair enough, that said, we will set it up this way for you, or they would say, thank you for letting us know, and thank you for letting us know how it, affects your organization. Could we instead suggest X, Y, Z? And that was really refreshing because it showed that they weren't just trying to automatically say yes all the time. It showed that they were really listening to what our problems were and wanting to come up with a mindful solution for us. So it was very refreshing on that perspective as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Nerissa. Obviously, we strive to deliver the best experience possible, and as you said, no two implementations are really alike. And we do have to listen to what the needs are and, quite frankly, the desires are too, but also take a little bit of a consultative approach in that best practices across multiple organizations and the years that we've been doing this have led us to understanding certain things about the way we deploy systems, and bringing those things to light and having those discussions always leads us to a better outcome, because actively engaging and collaborating on your solution versus dropping in a pre-configured box solution that really does a very narrow thing and maybe doesn't hit all the points that you need is really not the right way to go about process automation. So we definitely appreciate your comments. Thank you very much for that.
Of course.
Now, the big question, Nerissa, that might be on everybody's mind, and quite frankly, in the initial stages, as you actually look to solution providers and start getting some quotations and understanding costs involved and justifying those costs, sometimes people are very focused on what the actual return on investment is. And that can be measured a number of ways, as you well know, but tell us a little bit about you and your organization and how you viewed the return on investment, and did that materialize for you? And
sure,
how
absolutely.
so?
Absolutely. So I think oftentimes when people are trying to decide whether they want to automate their AP or not, they want these hard and fast numbers. And, as accountants, you want the quantitative data. So you want to be told it's going to save me X number of dollars, it's going to save me X number of hours in labor, that kind of thing. But I think the thing that people have to realize is that you'd be really comparing apples to oranges. It'd be comparing, your accounts payable department processing things on a very manual basis, having to file things away, having to look for invoices versus everything being more automated. So it's really tough to say, as far as dollar-wise, as far as labor-wise, how much time or how many dollars you're saving or what have you. It's just a different life, basically. But I will say that from a qualitative perspective, it's absolutely 100,000% worth it. For example, right now we are going through our year-end with our auditors, and It has been so terrific from both perspectives to just be able to give them a login into our DocStar system, and they're able to go in and search for whatever invoices they want, whatever check copies they want. The three-way match is all there inside the DocStar system, so it's not something where, you know, they have to run their search for accounts payable, give us a list of samples, and then us, you know, our team has to go and pull those invoices, all the check copies, and then give it to them, and then when the auditors leave, we have to go back and file everything away. There's none of that, and it is just absolutely wonderful. So it's just great. The other thing, too, just to talk about return on investment a little bit, when we went onto Great Plains, you know, a couple years ago, we created our accounts payable team for the very first time. Previously to that, we had our structure where our staff accountants were processing AP. But we, when we went centralized, we created a new AP department. And when we did that, we kind of knew at the back of our head that we wanted to automate AP. So we didn't fully staff our AP department up to the capacity that we thought we needed, just because we knew that eventually this automated system was going to come our way. So before we went on to DocStar, we were constantly behind as far as paying invoices, processing them. We would just have, you know, stacks and stacks and stacks of paper invoices, folders full of things that needed to be entered into Great Plains. So as of today, now that we have been using DocStar and we've been done with our phase 2, our final phase, since about January of this year, we've been operating, you know, very, very efficiently. You know, it's not nearly as chaotic or as voluminous of stacks of invoices as we used to process a couple of years ago. So that's been terrific. And then the other thing, too, is for any of those of you that have heard of Midtown, we just recently renovated our Chicago flagship club, and we pumped in $80 million into this beautiful club, state-of-the-art, you know, just gorgeous. And with this big renovation, we expect our EBITDA and our revenues to grow maybe about, you know, at least 25% year over year for the next couple of years. And with that, of course, with more activity results in more transactions, more accounts payable, right? And so with that, you know, and with the DocStar setup, you know, that we have today, I really don't think that we'll have to really change our staffing needs as far as the AP is concerned, even though we're continuing to grow. So it's just, you know, it's just terrific as far as, you know, qualitatively, you know, the different returns on investments.
Wow, that's great. Great. Thank you for that information, Nerissa. And obviously, we're going to open up the floor to any questions towards the end of the session here. But I thank you very much for all that information. And I think that obviously, from a customer perspective, hearing some of the challenges that you faced and some of the decision points that you were faced with and how you made those decisions, I think should be helpful to a number of people on the call. So we're going to take the next few minutes here and go through a quick product overview, showing you a little bit about our product and how we approach AP process automation. And then we'll follow that up with a quick Q&A session, at which point you can submit your questions, and Nerissa and I will be available to answer those questions for you. So making the process easier and more streamlined is what we're all about. So to that end, what we do is we provide you with all the key information that you need to review and extract that information from the inbound invoices. As Nerissa pointed out, with the intelligent data capture process, we are able to read through text recognition information that's available on the invoices and then process that through our process automation solution. And what that means is we will provide things like 2- and 3-way matching, lookups directly into Dynamics GP, and provide any exception cases with the information necessary. So we're not just showing you the invoice data, we're also pointing out, as you see on screen, where that data was mismatched so that your attention can be drawn immediately to what's the issue and how do I resolve it. And so very quickly and easily you can review an entire set of invoices and move through that process of corrections or making whatever approval requests or phone calls to vendors that you need to make to correct that invoice that's in process and keep that process moving and being efficient with it. With full GP integration with eConnect, we have over 60 discrete and distinct product integrations where we can look up information, add additional information from GP, and then ultimately create transactions within GP, both in the payables transaction entry and in the enter match invoices screens, allowing you to process PO and non-PO based invoices directly into Dynamics GP. So that eliminates redundant data entry and the need for even actually looking at the invoice if everything's in order and three-way matches are successful. Part of the Dynamics GP integration also includes the ability from within Dynamics GP screens to quickly and easily retrieve related documentation. So quickly what we're seeing here is the ability to have a button on screen to retrieve your documents, and then once clicked, using the context information, be able to show you that specific invoice and any related documents such as the original PO or shipping tickets. You also have the ability to run detailed drill down reports that allow you to see all the information that's in process. And as you see a list of invoices in a particular open invoices by date range report, for example, you can drill down on that and retrieve that invoice directly. You also have access to dashboards. And you also have, as we mentioned a moment ago, empowering your ability to create and or maintain your own workflows using our graphical workflow design tool. You have the ability to access the graphical workflow design tool and immediately, as you can see on the release to ERP step, you have the ability to edit, delete, add steps as needed. So you're empowered to build, modify, and maintain your own workflow processes, so that there's not a need for developers or costly professional services to help you over time expand the solution or modify it as needed. So at this point, we're going to leave you with some contact information on screen, which will be my contact information should you have further questions. However, we will also open up the floor at this point for any additional questions that we can answer for you.
So the first question that came in, and bringing it back up here, is asking about the typical implementation time frame.
Well, that's a great question, and in fact, the easiest answer is there's really not a typical time frame because each situation, as we mentioned, has its own details and uniqueness. So if you're talking about, for example, the difference between a header-footer comparison for matching purposes, that differs from a line item comparison, and if you're doing two-way matching versus three-way matching, if you have multiple remote locations, training involved in that. So there's a lot of variability in that entire implementation process. However, one of the things that Nerissa pointed out earlier, which I'm going to come back to for everyone on the call, is the implementation will typically go more quickly if the key stakeholders that you have within your organization are more readily accessible. So it really has a lot to do with how accessible is the organization. So the sooner that you make those resources available and the more available they are, the faster that implementation can go. We've had implementations that have gone as quickly as 2 weeks to implementations that range into the multiple months, depending on availability of resources, complexity, and scale of the solution. So I hate to be variable in that answer, but it truly is a situation-to-situation assessment. But thanks for the question.
Someone would like to know what role their VAR, their Dynamics VAR would play in an implementation.
Actually, that's another really great question. And in fact, we work very closely with many VARs in the implementation process for a couple of main reasons. Well, one, they maintain the greater part of the implementation knowledge, meaning they're much more intimate with the technical operation as well as the process that the organization goes through to use the GP system. So we work very closely with the GP reseller, and in fact we will set up that relationship at the start depending on how involved they want or need to be and how involved the customer organization wants them to be. And in fact, Nerissa, you may speak to this as well as to how we work with your reseller.
I didn't really understand the question. I'm sorry. Can you rephrase it, Jason?
Sure. So the question was really, what role would our Dynamics reseller play in the implementation or sales of the product?
Do you mean that your Dynamics partner or?
Yeah, your Dynamics partner.
Oh, got it. For us, and I guess it just depends on what kind of relationship you have with your Dynamics partner. We work with ours very closely. I have her phone number memorized. So she certainly was very helpful with regard to being a part of the implementation because she knows the bones of our GP setup in and out, and so oftentimes it would be something where she would be included on our weekly calls to be able to speak to our system and how we have it set up. So it depends on, how much you defer to that person, that party, versus how much knowledge you have inherently, but we certainly leverage on our partner.
Okay, great. The next question is asking what product training tools are available?
Oh, that's
Ray, do you want to take this
question.
one?
Yeah, I'll grab this one. We actually have an online learning management system where we have self-paced courses that you can access anytime, day or night, on the internet, and they're basically thorough or comprehensive courses that you can walk through all of the functionality of the DocStar system. In addition to that, we also have live online courses that you can sign up for where they're instructor-led, and you can engage in direct questioning, and in fact, there are some trainings that are even scenario-based, which engage with the participants on the call to ask specific questions about what they're doing in terms of that design process, for example, in the workflow design course, and so on. There's also custom training. If there's a need and you desire it, you can also set up custom training sessions with you and your team. So you could have anything from admin training to just approval training for approvers through AP processor training. So there could be any level of customized training. But during the implementation phase, there's a familiarity stage where we take the administrators through a specialized training on administration of the system, and then we take the actual users of the system through a user training. So that's all live during part of the implementation setup. But thank you. That's a great question.
And I'm going to make a final call for questions here. We have one more in the queue that we can take here. So the question is, can I use DocStar to automate other business processes beyond AP?
Absolutely. I mentioned this earlier in the call. Oftentimes, AP automation is a really big bang for the buck application because there's a lot of return on investment there, and because volume of vendor invoices can produce a lot of, quite frankly, we heard it earlier, what you might call chaos or a little bit of a very labor-intense processing environment. We tend to hit AP automation first, but then expand into potentially sales order automation, into human resource areas with new hire practices and with performance appraisal practices. So there's definitely an expansion capability, but generally you see AP automation as one of the high points for process automation, and then expand out from there.
All right, interesting. Well, that is the last question I see for now. We do have a couple more little items to get to in case you do want to try to sneak one more question in, anyone in the audience. Well, first let me just say to Ray and to Nerissa, thank you both so much for taking the time to present today.
Thank you, Jason. And thank you, Nerissa.
Of course, thank you for having me.
We have recorded today's event. We'll be making that available soon. And obviously, Ray's contact information is up there. I'm sure you'd be happy to field any further details or questions after today's live event. With that, we are going to wrap things up. So once again, thank you for your attention today, and have a great day.